Stretch your kilo. Almost within range. Ready for pickup. Arrived.
What is up, guys? This is the ViperStealth. Thank you for tuning in for another video. This one is just a quick update and not a build walkthrough, so if you are looking for a build walkthrough, do check out my recent video that goes into each piece in detail. I hope you enjoyed the little DZ clip at the beginning. Man, my heart was pounding during that 1 versus 4. I can't believe I managed to get the extraction, but you know, this build is pretty good with a grenade launcher and it does scare teams. So in the dark zone, make sure you do chase those supply drops if you want to stay alive and, you know, threaten squads of enemies. So let's get straight into it. I'm not going to waste your time. The build is largely the same as what I had before, so if you see my recent video, and I know quite a few of you have, you know you've got your 4-piece hardwired, you've got your skilled backpack, you've got your BTSUs, you've got recharge, rooted, and in rhythm. You've got double sadist here, and you've got the bleeder hive, and you've got the mines that hit really hard. So I was giving this build a lot of thought, and I noticed a lot of people have started using this build all in PvE and even some people in PvP, and brings a smile to my face. But I thought, how can I take this to the next level? And I thought the biggest weakness of the build was the armor. So my armor was 195, and now you can see it's, you know, almost 95,000 armor more. So you guys might think, how did I do that? You know, what am I sacrificing? And the truth of it is, I'm not actually sacrificing anything at all. So I wanted to share this with you for all of you guys that are making these 4-piece hardwired builds where you feel a little bit too squishy and you want to stack on a crap load more armor at no expense. So what I've done basically was, you may notice, if you followed my last video intensely, you may notice that I had 1 red mod slot in my bag. Now I've got 2. So instead of 15 attributes in my build, I've got 16 now. So my BTSUs, when they're procced, they give 160% skill damage, not 150. So I've got 10% more explosive damage on that, which is nice. So do make sure you do get one of these bags, which is Alps. Make sure you've got skilled and destructive, 2 yellow attributes, and 2 mods at the bottom. So the biggest change that I've made to this build, and I'm going to talk to you about one other change that I will still make to this build. The biggest change that I made to get all of that armor was the bag. So if you remember from my previous video, my bag used to have something like 40 or 46% skill haste and a respectable amount of skill power, but you know, it wasn't as high as 775. So what I've done is actually I farmed a new piece of equipment, which is the Up Summit. I've actually left the skill haste as it was at 25%. Now this is not high. It goes like, I've picked up 46%, and you know that I'm sure there's more out there higher than that. So this is certainly not high, 25%. But what I've done is I've spec'd 775 skill power on this bag. And what that allows me to do is it sent me way over my skill power allowance. I was at 3,400, 3,500. And I know some of you guys will be thinking, Viper, you're stupid. Why would you do that? It's pointless having 3,500 skill power. You know, you max out at 3k for all of your mods. So what's the point? The point was the vest. Now, it bugged me that on my last build, I was at about 3,100 skill power. I thought if I can get a bit more skill power onto my build, then I can actually recalibrate my vest for something else. So it was a flip up really between putting on a 15.5% weapon damage attribute on the vest, or slapping on one of the 30% total armors. So that's what I did. I put 30% total armor on there. You notice the skill power on the vest is only 526. Now the maximum skill power I have on vest is something like 1050. I didn't need that anymore, so I crafted a new hardwired vest, and I made sure that I had decent enough skill power that I could still get my mods. So 2983 allows me to have access for all of my mod attachments that I've got here, so that's not a problem. And it also allows me to recalibrate a different attribute. So this gives me massively more armor, as you can see, 30%. Or you could, if you want to hit a little bit harder, go for 15.5% weapon damage. But the reason why I've gone for armor is because this build also has 3 blue mod slots. So I used to have armor on kill, which makes this build a bit of a healer build. But what I've done now is I've gone for 5% total armor. So I've stacked like really high percentage total armor on here. So I've got 4.5, 5%, and the last one, let's have a quick look, is also 4.5%. So I've got two 4.5%, one 5%, and that's racked me up to 289.9. So you know that you can get over 290 if you've got 5% mods here. This has really helped my build withstand a little bit more damage. I do use this build pretty much daily in the dark zone, not solo farming. I use it as a squad support role, and the biggest threat to this build was that I would go down if I got too close to the action. You know, the beauty of this build in the DZ is that you've got to stay on the perimeter of all of the action. So if you're on the perimeter of all the action, you won't go down, but you're still contributing to your team. You're still throwing your seekers in, still throwing your hive in. You can still pop shots at the enemy from a distance. But as soon as they ADS you, you've got to run away, get behind some cars, you know, stay on that beautiful perimeter safe spot. The beauty of this build of being at 290 is it just allows you to take a little bit more damage before you can get behind cover, whack on an armor kit, and get back into the action. Whereas I found that before, having 190 armor, pretty much if you got ADS'd, you were a dead man. So this for me is the difference between surviving or not. I promised you that I would show you also a couple of changes that I would make to the build. So the one thing that I would do is the pistol. Now I've realized recently, I've only learnt this recently, that because I've always ignored these special weapons in the past, but if you go for the Disarray special and scroll down, you'll notice it comes with In Rhythm. And In Rhythm is an important talent of the skill build, so make sure you do have that in your skill build. I noticed this also, Wesley, while holstered you are able to resist one ensnare attempt. Now this is pretty much only a PvE thing. I do know that there are foaming enemies in PvP, but it's not often. But I still think it's nice to get extra talents where it doesn't cost anything. So what I would do is I would use this instead of the lightning rod pistol, because this way I get 2 holstered talents instead of 1, and I'd need to change this weapon from In Rhythm to recharged. So I'm just looking for an assault rifle. I personally like the ACR. There's no real reason why I've chosen that gun, but I'm just looking for an ACR that has sadist and also recharged, and then I'll be able to swap the pistol over to get 2 talents. So that'll be a nice little change. The other thing that I want to talk to you guys about, which is you know, important for PvP, is when I take this build into PvP, I do change it up slightly. So one thing that I do is, you'll notice the seeker mines. I only learnt this recently and I cannot believe it, I've gone nuts over this, is that I thought that this seeker mine only allowed damage mods in these two system areas. So we've got one, you know, ball bearings, and we've got one delivery system upgrade. I just recently learned that you can also have one in this mod slot as well. So instead of having +6, we can swap that over and we can go for damage mod. Now I've only got 77%, so I'm farming for one that's 90% plus. But already you can see on the right, my base damage is 775. Now hopefully this is making you guys think. Base damage 775 before the BTSUs. You know, and also like with all of the explosive mods I've got, I don't believe they get nerfed as much in the Dark Zone as the BTSUs and other things do, but the base damage here of being 775 is, I personally believe, absolutely insane. It really does make a difference when you take this build into the DZ and you've got base damage that high and you've got a squad of enemies in front of you and you release 3 mines and each of them are hitting at crazy numbers. It really helps the front line, you know, the clutch builds and the tank builds in your squad finish the job. And another thing that I do when I go into the DZ is I change this grenade from the standard grenade to the fragmentation grenade. I do this so that I can set status effects. Now I know what you're thinking. You're saying, why would you need to set status effects when you've got a hive? Well, recently I've been actually not using the hive. I've been using the bomber drone, and this is purely disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. So the beauty of the bomber drone, I've got quite used to it because I used to use it before the hive was really meta with the skill builds. The beauty of the bomber drone is the insane base damage, and when I say insane, this is no exaggeration. You can see the base damage is over 1 million. It's like 1,100,000, so already it's incredibly strong. This is before BTSU gloves kick in. Now, I've had friends line up for me and I've bombed them. It wipes them out. I've asked them to put on their tankiest build and it wipes them out. You know, when you get into cover and proc rooted and the BTSU gloves are procced and you send the bomber drone, it's GG, it's game over. Like, the only way that people can survive this bomber drone is if they are the gunner specialization. They've got a tanky build and they take a little bit of damage and they whack on an armor kit, so they're carrying in like really high armor of like 700,000 or 800,000. That's the only way they're going to survive the bomber build, and even then it puts them quite low armor, so your team can easily finish them off. But this is just beautiful. I've got blast radius, I've got damage mod here, and I've got a damage mod here. The blast radius being just shy of 6 meters. It's definitely big enough in the DZ, because I've noticed that the latest meta is just to use shotguns and run around in circles in heals and use armor packs. That's beautiful for a bomber drone, because a bomber drone, the width of the blast radius is pretty much taking up most of the street. So if you've got these shotgun builds which are just running around in circles being idiots, you can just send a bomber drone and just wipe them out and, you know, send them back to the checkpoint. Just to show you what I'm talking about with the bomber drone, just to give you an example, I'm going to do a non-cut damage on an invulnerable elite. So this is what you need to do. As I mentioned, you proc the gloves, so I just go in here and I proc the gloves. So gloves are procced. Now I'm going to go into cover to proc rooted, and I'm going to launch my bomber drone. Keep an eye on the DPS. So you can see there, you know, I got 6 million early on, but you saw that just went up to about, you know, high numbers, 5 million, you know, well over 4 million. So these are the kind of numbers that we're talking about. Now, of course, this does get nerfed when you go into PvP, but I do use this build in PvP. I've received a lot of comments in my previous video saying this isn't a PvP build. What this isn't, it isn't a solo PvP build. It absolutely is a PvP squad support build. So don't tell me it isn't. I know it is. I use it daily, and this bomber drone really just helps your squad wipe out a whole, you know, group of agents. Even with rooted, not procced, it still hits pretty hard. 5 million there, you just saw a second ago. So do try out this little meta, it's quite fun. These Seekers are incredible now with the extra damage mod that I use. The bomber drone is just a really nice addition to it. The BTSU's proc for a whole minute, so definitely long enough to last a confrontation, and you can just spam grenades down the street to the enemy agents, so that's good too. Hopefully this build has given you some great ideas. If it has, please like and subscribe and share this with your clan and with your teammates who enjoy skill builds. But that's it from me. Have a fantastic day, and thank you very much for watching.